He's up again.
The Sethians and the Valentinians and the Ophites and the Basiladinians or the Cainites, though I've done episodes on many of those, and they are probably worth watching, especially the episode on the Apocryphon of John and the section on the Valentinian Christianity. Those are going to be really important connective tissues to get an idea of what's going on in this video. In fact, I have a whole Gnosticism playlist you can check out if you're interested in really going deep on the Gnostic train. But the central thrust shared by many of these theologies is that the true reality is a spiritual reality, not this. It's a spiritual reality presided over by an ineffable deity whose outflowing, whose emanations generated a host of beings known as the fullness, or the pleroma in Greek. However, one such entity, Sophia, or wisdom, sought to create on her own without the consent of the great invisible spirit. This mistake created a horrifying being, a nightmarish creature known variously as Saklas, Samael, Yaldabaoth, or the Demiurge. Now, unlike Platonism, Stoicism, Judaism, or other species of Christianity, for whom the creator of this world was a benevolent deity who created a maximally beautiful world, a maximally good world, these Christians held that the physical cosmos was that this was all a kind of prison, ruled over by that hideous demiurge, the craftsperson, along with a retinue of malevolent beings known as the rulers, or Archons in ancient Greek. In this myth, the upper spiritual realm ultimately takes pity on us poor human beings and smuggles within them a divine spiritual spark and ultimately sends Christ, Jesus, who reveals the truth about our cosmos and the means by which to escape it and, of course, to return with him, finally, to that divine light. Of course, I'm greatly simplifying the mythology. There is an enormous amount of variation both in these schools of thought and between them, frankly. There's not just one Gnosticism. But in a structural sense, the core myth system remains remarkably consistent. There's an ineffable spiritual reality in which a metaphysical tragedy occurs, engendering the creation of the malevolent demiurge, which in turn creates the physical reality around us, the physical cosmos, in which divine elements are trapped or encased within human beings, and we as human beings have to escape this world. In this episode, however, I want to focus in on one element, just one element of this mythology, the origins and nature of the cosmic prison wardens, as it were, the Archons. Now, of course, I'll be coming back to do another episode on the origins of really the most shocking element in all of this, the origins and nature of the evil creator, or the demiurge, Saklas, Samael, Yaldabaoth. But the Archons turn out to be a crucially important element in this mythology because, in a very important sense, they have created this physical prison, including our bodies in which we are trapped and deluded into believing this is all real. They are responsible for tricking us into believing that any of this is real. And even our thoughts and emotions are just inner puppetry to control us. And that these entities must be ultimately defeated and bypassed in our final jailbreak back to the spiritual world of light, beauty, and oneness. So, what do we really know about the Archons? The term Archon would have struck ancient ears as powerfully political, though without much of the majesty or any association with royalty. I think that's important. Thus, a Latin equivalent might be magistrate or governor. They're basically political functionaries who have rule locally, but not totally. If you've ever worked in retail, they're like the assistant manager with a chip on their shoulder who get off on making your life miserable because they got picked on when they were little. They need therapy, not managerial positions. Most of what we know about the Archons can be found spread through the literature written by the so-called Gnostic Christians themselves and the polemics against them written by other Christians such as Irenaeus, Hippolytus, and Epiphanius. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, in most of these mythological systems, these are beings created or somehow generated by the malevolent demiurge, both for its own narcissistic needs, but also to act as secondary creators and enforcers of this physical prison cosmos. Thus, in an important sense, they are the beings most intimately responsible for this whole mess. And also, they are the first major hurdle that one faces in one's escape back to the realm of spiritual fullness.